A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined so far, and those who will be joining, to not only our AllClear customers, but obviously to colleagues as well. And of course, the warmest of welcomes to Ollie. Thank you so much, Ollie, for giving up your time. And we've got, hopefully, an enjoyable evening ahead. Nothing too onerous for you to answer questions about, unless somebody's got one up their sleeve that we haven't seen so far. Just to set the scene, Stuart has obviously sent me a little bit of a bio. I'm going to make you blush a little bit now, and as we talk through this, some of this you'll be aware of, perhaps some of it you won't. But Ollie is only 22, is one of the hottest prospects in the English cricket, and somebody you know quite well, I'm sure, and who's been very fulsome in his praise of you is Jonathan Agnew, who's described you already as the real deal. So that's high praise indeed coming from Jonathan. In August 2016, just after you finished school, Ollie, you made your Surrey debut in the Royal London One Day Cup in a semi-final against Yorkshire, and you scored 20 in helping them reach the Lord's final. It doesn't say here whether you won that one or not in the final.
No, we lost that one. And I dropped the catch the year after to lose us the next one as well.
So really it was summer 2018 where you really got your breakthrough, wasn't it? And you had quite a season there for Surrey in the county championship. Only at 20 and a pretty impressive average of 70.43, I see. So 986 runs in total. How many innings was that? Can you remember?
Not sure. There was a few not outs hidden in there as well, which always made the average look a bit nicer. But not sure. I think I played 13 games in that season, so probably 19. I
think you've been a little bit modest because obviously that form brought you an England Test debut that year. So that's only at 20 at Lord's against India. That must have been a very special feeling for you.
Yeah, it was a bit early. I'd only played, I think, 13 games, so I felt pretty mad at the time. Looking back on it, it was all very sudden.
Can you remember how many you scored in your first innings?
28, I remember, yeah. I'd take that on debut as well. I just didn't want to get a duck, to be honest, on debut.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that was the case. Yeah, and the following summer was something that really has become a little bit of an ongoing issue for you. So it was a little bit held back by the shoulder injury, which we'll touch on later when we get into the general questions. But you obviously, once you recovered from that, you used it to good form. A double century in playing for Surrey. You've got 3 already, double centuries. So congratulations on that. And then you obviously came back into the England fold, fully recovered, and then very specially got your first half century in New Zealand, and then topped that with a maiden century down in South Africa. So fantastic achievement at such a young age. And I believe you're in fine company because you're the youngest centurion since Alistair Cook, and he went on to make a record number of centuries. So I'm sure that you'll be setting sights on that. And achieve everything as much as Alistair did, because he was. So we've got a lot of questions to wade through today, Ollie. So if with no further ado, perhaps we'll get into the questions. And after that, if we've got time, we set a little AllClear quiz that we're going to test you with, only if we got time. It's no great pressure here. Only 5 out of 9 was the average score, so I expect you to pass that quite easily.
Quite a hand for that.
You've very kindly donated 3 international shirts for us, and even more importantly, you've signed them and washed them. So that's really good of you. Thank you very much.
That's the key.
So with no further ado, we'll get into some of the questions. Talking about the shoulder, we've had Adam from Windsor just wants to send his best wishes to you for a quick recovery. Part and parcel of being a professional sportsman are injuries, of course, and it's just a bump in the road. And he's looking forward to you really, really progressing your career. So he wants to send you all best wishes for a speedy recovery. I know when you and I spoke the other night, you were on your way back from a full day at Loughborough. So I think everybody would be interested to know kind of what it is that you've been through and how things are going at the moment.
Yeah, so I've had this, like you said, an ongoing shoulder issue now. Last season? It's all a bit of a blur. Start of last season, I dived and I landed awkwardly. It was a horrible dive, textbook wise. Dive and slide on your front, not on your side. That's a lesson I've learned. And yeah, it popped out and stayed out, so I was pretty sore. And I knew at the time I'd done a decent bit of damage, so they did surgery on it a couple of weeks later. Just a keyhole surgery where they just tied back. It's called the labrum. They tied the labrum back on, and a small surgery. As a 3.5 months out of rehab after, and then managed to get back for the end of the season. And just kept doing my rehab that winter, and had no real issues with it since. Every now and again, it'd get a little bit stiff. And then playing this summer was all good. And then in the second last game, actually, I dived and landed awkwardly. Felt like I'd just jarred it and had a little bit of soft tissue work on it. Felt okay, good to go for the next game. And in that last game, I don't know if anyone's seen the image of me doing it, but there wasn't a lot in it. I was just sliding and managed to pop it out again, which is pretty frustrating. I think I did the damage the week before, loosened up basically what they tightened in the operation before. And yeah, found out, unfortunately, I needed another operation, quite a bigger one this time. So I've got a nice scar going from here down under my armpit, and it's like called a bone fusion. So they've basically cut out a bit of bone and moved it to the front of my shoulder to hopefully tighten it all up, and hopefully it won't happen again now. But yeah, I think that was 9.5 weeks ago now. So the rehab days, as you can imagine, are brilliant. I'm really enjoying them. Not repetitive at all.
No. It's one of those disciplines that you have to go through, and clearly there you sounded like you're in excellent hands. So we wish you well with that, and hope there's no residual damage there longer term, and it doesn't restrict anything. But probably it'll teach you not to dive around so enthusiastically as some of the older pros have no doubt told you. We've got a question from John in Hounslow. Ollie was saying it's been an absolute joy watching you develop your career and your batting this summer, but he wants to know what, by any chance, and I don't know if there's any family ghosts coming out here, Ollie, but he wants to know, by any chance, are you related to the Pope Scott family in Hounslow?
Can't say I am. I saw there's a Joel Pope in there, but I do know Joel Pope, but there's who works at Surrey actually, but no relation, not that I know of anyway. No relation from mine, I don't think.
Yeah, no, he's just tying in the fact that they were very capable cricketers, one of them playing for ex-Middlesex, but I'm sure as a Surrey lad you have nothing to do with ex-Middlesex players anyway. So.
Yeah, he would have seen the light otherwise.
Okay, so the next one is, clearly it's quite early in your career and you've had some amazing highlights already, but as usually is the way with people, they're very intrigued by these sort of questions. So what do you think's been your most memorable day in your cricketing career so far?
It's a tough one. I mean, from a purely selfish point of view, I think the first 100 in South Africa was a very memorable one. But I think the days that you remember the most are the big wins for the team. And I've probably got a few. It's quite hard to put a finger on one. I'm not sure if anyone was either out there or watched on TV, but that Cape Town test that we played in the new year against South Africa was one of the best feelings I've ever had on a cricket pitch. Where we had about 20,000 Barmy Army out there, because obviously it was Christmas break. People managed to get out there. We had lost the first game, had half the team were ill. Some bug flew through the camp, and I've never had an atmosphere like it on a cricket pitch, and we managed to win it late on day 5, and it was one of the hardest fought wins we've had, or I've been a part of, whether that be for England or Surrey. So that's got to be up there. The beers tasted pretty good after that win, and then we were lucky enough to have a few days off in Cape Town after. So that was one of the most special. Yeah. And then also winning the championship with Surrey. We won it at Worcester. Celebrated well again, but I think the county championship is one of the toughest, longest, biggest grind that there is, because you put so much time and effort in, and everyone's buying in for the same goal at the start of the season, as you do with any club sport. And to win that and to see what it meant to some of the older guys in the squad as well, who've been around for so long but haven't managed to get over the line. That was a unbelievably special feeling as well. So those two from a team point of view, and then I guess from a purely selfish point of view, your debut at Lords are that 100 as well. So it's quite hard to put your finger on one, but hopefully there'll be a few more in years to come.
That's thanks to Julian from Basel and also Steve from Hutton, who both asked the same question. When you mentioned the Barmy Army, us at AllClear being specialist travel insurance providers, always get very nervous watching the Barmy Army because we recognise quite a few of our customers in there, and they always seem to be having such an amazing time.
Yeah, I get a bit jealous sometimes.
Listen to your celebrations in South Africa. I'm sure they were having their own celebrations as well. So lots of sun and lots of beers sometimes is a little bit of a worry.
They're unbelievable. Yeah, the Barmy Army are seriously special. So yeah, they're good guys.
Yeah, and they travel everywhere, don't they? And give up, that's their main holiday of the year, and they just want to travel.
Non-COVID times, absolutely. I think that Cape Town was as good as it looks like it can be, but I think hopefully, fingers crossed, if this vaccine can sort itself out, then I think next year hopefully I'm on the plane as well. But that Ashes series down under, I think especially after the Barmy Army not being able to sort of come to many games, I'm sure there'll be a decent crowd there. So that they keep us going quite a bit. So that should be a great experience.
Great to mention and talk about the Barmy Army. It's something that I think I'd quite like to do at some stage, and I would probably pick South Africa or the Caribbean, I think, to go, but hopefully one day. Coming on from a question from up north, we've got Ronald from Scunthorpe's asking, can you remember the first six you hit in first class cricket, and who was the bowler?
I can. I think it was about my third game. I tried to keep the ball on the ground for the first few, and then Dom Bess actually it was. I think we needed about 10 to win, and Sangakkara just got out, and I thought, look, I'll try to finish this one in a hurry. So Dom Bess cleared over I think it went about a metre over the rope. I'd love to say I went into Rosette, but I plinked it over the rope, which is a nice feeling. And I think we won the game with it, so that was very enjoyable.
Oh, you won the game, so there wasn't a chance for him to hurl one at you. Who do you think you are, young man? Can't deliver next ball.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember playing in a charity game with Derek Underwood, and I was behind the stumps, and some young lad who we were playing against hit him for six. So he said to me in the crossover, he said, first ball of the next over when I'm bowling, he said, just make sure you're ready for a catch. Yeah. And he just turned his ball and got this lad out, and I just thought, wow, that was
brilliant. The youngsters.
Yeah, well, it was just the skill of it. He could do it precisely when he wanted to do it, but this young man was getting a little bit too confident hitting him for six, and he was having none of that. So the next one he was out. But so talking about bowlers, and obviously, if they're not too keen when you start knocking them about a bit. Since your debut as a Test cricketer, who would you say is the most difficult bowler you've faced?
It's a good question. I think Bumrah of India at the time was the best bowler I'd faced. I remember facing him at Trent Bridge. Luckily, he was injured on my debut and faced him at Trent Bridge. Didn't face a lot of him because, to be honest, I don't think I lasted long in that game. I think I got about 10 and 15 or something. But Bumrah, the Indian, he's a seriously good bowler. He bowls quick and makes it look pretty easy. More recent times, Rabada of South Africa, he's a seriously talented bowler, obviously tall, skillful, and he's got some good pace behind it, and he bowls a pretty mean bumper, and he lets you know about it as well. So he's a good, unbelievable competitor, and he really gets in the battle, and he can send them down pretty quick. And then I think as well, I mean, luckily we don't have to play against him too much, but Jofra Archer, he's for some reason, I keep ending up having to face him in the nets. He followed me in the summer on our training sessions, and we played on some pretty spicy wickets. And I actually gave him a bit of chirp at one point because I don't know why, it was the most stupid thing I've ever done. And he sent a few quick bumpers down, which I luckily just got out of the way of. But he's not nice to face in the nets. He's he makes it. I mean, the way he just sort of trots in, he looks like he's going to send down a 60-mile-an-hour ball, really, the way he just sort of trots in and makes it look so easy. And then next thing you know, the ball whistles past your nose. And it's just like, this guy's different level.
Yeah, that can be a bit disconcerting, I think, when you're getting surprised like that from
Yeah.
extra bounce, or I don't know if you've ever been in a situation with a fast bowler where you didn't actually see it.
Oh, yeah. There's been a few times. Normally he's bowling.
Wow, yeah, that must be very disconcerting.
Yeah, it's not that fun.
You mentioned earlier about people being chirping at it. Is that, do you mean they get quite vocal about it? And if you hit them, they sort of get into you verbally. Is that we don't really get a sense for that necessarily from watching on the TV, but.
So it looks like the Ashes. I mean, I haven't been a part of the Ashes. Hopefully, I will experience it, but that looks like and chatting to the lads, they say there's a good amount of chirp in those games, and I think it's all friendly. You've got to be pretty careful with what you say now. I think there's cameras everywhere and there's stump mics in, so every now and again you can get caught out, and so you've got to be pretty careful what you say, especially with no crowds in as well. It makes it all a bit clearer. But yeah, it can get pretty heated on the pitch. But the umpires are pretty careful. There's a line, and as soon as you cross that line, whether you're getting, hopefully you're not the bloke to make it personal, but it's all about getting an advantage over the opposition. And if that's the way one of the bowlers wants to do it, then that's absolutely fine. I don't think it really changes much as a batter, and as a batter though, that you can't really win unless you're chirping when you're on 100 or more. There's no win because you're going to get out at some point, and if you're chirping back, you know what's going to happen as soon as you do get out. They're going to be all over you. So I think it's more the bowlers who chirp.
And what about those bowlers who have to go in and bat and face these? I mean, that must be quite a daunting prospect. I think when you write down the order and you're really a bowler and you have to go out into test match and face some of these guys. It is,
yeah. It's quite funny actually. You see, there's often a bit of they call it like a bowlers union. So, for example, county cricket, we had Morne Morkel playing for us these last couple of seasons, and obviously bowls very quickly, 6'7" or whatever he is. And when we come across bowlers like Fidel Edwards or Dale Steyn, it's all a bit weird because suddenly Morne Morkel stops bowling bounces at his quick bowler mates on the other side, and then then he knows that if he doesn't bowl any at Dale Steyn, then Dale Steyn's not going to bowl any back at Morne. So there's sometimes a little bit of a friendly partnership, but when Archer bowls bouncer at Rabada, I think Archer's definitely going to get a few back when he bats. It's just a bit of whether it's an ego thing or just a way of just trying to get him out quicker. It's quite fun to watch.
Yeah, that's some good stories there. Thanks to Mark and Linda from Braintree for that question. Ben Stokes called you phenomenal. I can only say that, phenomenal. How did you feel about that? And is that a lot to live up to coming from somebody of Ben Stokes' calibre?
It's nice to hear. I think as a cricketer, when you're in the spotlight playing for England, things I think you learn pretty quickly there. I mean, it's great to hear it from your teammates, and they're the ones who know you best, and it's better than listening. You rather listen to the teammates and the media, and it's great to hear that from your mates. But you also know that as a cricketer, you might score 100 one week and you're the best player in the world, and then 2 weeks later you've had 2 or 3 or 4 low scores, and suddenly everyone's calling for your head to be chopped off. So I try not to. It's nice to read them and nice to take them in, and when it's your teammates, you can enjoy it when they say that. But when these things are put in the paper or on TV, then I try and not read into it too much, because I know I'm one bad shot or a couple of good balls away from getting told I'm rubbish and should be dropped from the side, which is just the way international sport is. It's the same in, sure you would have experienced it in football, rugby. It's the same in all sports. I think you've got to manage the media. If you're one of those that struggles when bad things are written about you, then you might just not want to read too much into it when you do well, because a couple of weeks later it could be the opposite. But it's a massive compliment from a guy like him. He's one of the, if not the best in the world, in my opinion. So to hear him say that's awesome, but
Yeah.
I try not let it get to your head, because cricket's a funny old sport like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure fellow pros around you, they'll keep you very level grounded as well. I think that some of the older pros have been through it and experienced it, and they understand the pressures on the youngsters and protect them from it, but also they keep them very grounded. I think that's my experience anyway.
Absolutely.
But Ben's obviously had his own issues in terms of how the media have treated him and the way that he's come back, and some of his performances have been absolutely amazing. And you know, that's a great example of not letting it get you too much. And he's had a lot of things to deal with. So
yeah, exactly.
This one's from John in Mepham, which is down in Kent there, and it's quite a strange one, given that I know you're only a youngster and have only just really started your career. But he wants to know, how long do you think you can play cricket for, and have you got any ideas about when you finish playing cricket, what you're going to do? Hopefully you haven't thought too much about that at the moment. But
yeah, well, that depends on. Hopefully my shoulder can hold up for a while longer. I'd love to. Hopefully I can play cricket. I mean, you see these guys playing till international cricket sometimes till they're up to 40. So we're lucky that if you look after your body from an early age, then you've got every chance of having a long, successful career. If I'm good enough and my body listens to me, I'd love to play for another 17 years or so. After cricket, I think a lot of it depends on how good I am. To be honest with you, you see a lot of the greats, they go into commentary, and I'd like to think I could go down that route. But some of that does depend on how many runs I score in my career. And I've given commentary a little bit of a crack, to be honest, and it's not easy. So fair play to those guys. It does take a little bit of getting used to. But yeah, I think I'd love to stick in cricket in either commentary, or I'd like to think one day I'll be a good head coach. But you never know. In 17 years' time, I might be sick of cricket and might want to go down another route. So whether I find myself with any sort of degrees under my belt, or if I've done a bit of studying, I might find some other interest. But for now, I see I guess in my opinion, my life being cricket, but that may change depending. I think my brain cells probably telling me to stick towards cricket, because there's not enough of them to go down another route.
So obviously, from my experience at the Professional Football Association, there's obviously all the structure there for people to take qualifications and education, but my overall experience was that not too many lads were too interested, particularly some of the youngsters. We're not too over enamoured. A big element of that was obviously taking your coaching courses and your coaching badges. I don't know if you've gone down that route to start. You're probably concentrating more on your playing than coaching at the moment. But it's the want of any sports person, is it? They know it's a shortened career, and prepping for it properly is always something that's kind of there in the background. And each time you get a contract, you put it to the back burner again, don't you? But I think the thing that I think's changed so much in cricket, Ollie, is just the opportunity now. The games seems to be that it's very much more year round. There's obviously different formats of it. There's what's going on in India as well. So the opportunities seem a lot better for cricketers these days. I don't know what your view is on that, but obviously the other side to that is you're putting your body through a lot more as well.
Yeah, exactly. I guess, back in the day, there was county players were the majority of the time under sort of 8-month contracts. They'd rock up in April time and get ready then and train hard and then play for the season. Then a lot of the time they'd have another job in the off season. And obviously it depends at what level you're at, whether you're in the England side or whether you're a T20 player traveling the world and playing these competitions. That obviously varies quite a lot. Some guys will spend their winters in the gym in England, and that's probably a great opportunity to get a bit of that studying under your belt if that's something you want to sort of take on post cricket as well. I think that's your chance. But there's, like you said, there's so much opportunity. Hopefully, I would have liked to have gone to Australia potentially this winter. I'd love to get into that white ball side. So the off season, they call it the off seasons. If you're doing well, could be just as busy as the summer in England. So it's hard to, if you're doing that, there's no chance. I mean, I've got Josh Butler lives pretty close to me, and he's he's obviously gone from the Test side to the One Day side to the T20 side. He's just got back from the IPL. He's off to South Africa, I think, next week. Then Sri Lanka, then India, and then back into the English season. So there's not a lot of respite for those guys who are in all three formats and are sort of the biggest of names, because there's just so much on their plates. So it's quite hard. Like you said, I'm not sure if you did any degrees when you were playing, or there's a few lads do though. When a few of the guys do though, county cricketers get some degrees under, which is a great option, I think.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, I did actually, but I wouldn't have said, I was actually, when I was Brighton, I actually had to do one on a day release, and it wasn't particularly a great day in terms of the training week. And whilst it was in the contract that they had to allow you to do it, they weren't over keen on it, I have to say. Didn't make it particularly easy for you. And I think if you're a youngster, you'd feel that pressure and probably wouldn't do it. But obviously I was a bit more of a mature player in those days. But getting the balance right is difficult, because clearly the playing side of it has to be the priority. But and I don't think that people get the time that they used to get. The training's very different, very much more structured in a way now. But I mean, it sounds like you've clearly got a level head, and obviously the education side. Generally, I found, sweeping generalisation here, but generally the cricketers I interacted with, we used to have a big relationship with the Sussex cricketers, really good relationships. Steve Gattin, brother of Mike, was obviously one of my teammates, and Mike was down a lot. We used to have a couple of games against Sussex, one at football, one at cricket. It was a good interaction, but generally they were, I'm fair to say, that probably a little bit more educated than the footballers. So we didn't get involved in too many quizzes.
No surprise.
I'm going to move on, because some of our listeners have asked some very good cricketing questions, and it'd be good to get your views on some of these. So again, thank you for those who've contributed. And I think this one's very topical, given where we all are, and very unused to seeing, I think, in modern sport, where Keith from Brent was asked, how much does playing cricket behind closed doors affect the team's performance?
To be honest, I don't think it does really. I don't think it affects what goes on the pitch. I mean, I watched the football, and they say the defenders are switched on. And is that why we're seeing so many goals? Because they switched on with as much as they are when there's 60,000 in. But to be honest, I don't think, honestly, it affects the quality of the performance on the pitch. We know we're playing for I've only done it playing for England so far, but we're playing for our country, and it's Test cricket. It's the pinnacle of cricket. We've probably got more viewers than anywhere back home. So I think, and it didn't really feel like the quality dipped down at all. But I think we do miss it massively, though. I think there's times where during this summer, there's times where a crowd in would have been amazing. And I think if anyone saw that Pakistan first test where Butler and Woke scored those runs, the atmosphere would have been electric there. So there are times when we would have gone, imagine if there's a crowd in, it would have been so special. But I don't think the performance levels dipped at all. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but everyone seemed as up for it as ever, and it was as heated as ever. But yeah, I think there's just times where we wished we could have had a crowd in. I mean, the whole time.
Yeah, I think the word in that is that you're professionals, isn't it? And then at the end of the day, you're paid to do a job. Clearly, in many ways we're actors, or I was an actor, but you were a performer, so to speak. So having the crowd there, good or bad, it can impact performance. But as I said, when you take the circumstances as they are, you play to what the surface is like, or you play to what the conditions are like. So I think, as you say, if you'd have scored a maiden century and there'd been nobody to hold you back up to, that would have been
that's
probably
that's why I got out in 91.
Well,
Missed a straight one.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to ask you, Ollie, about, they mentioned about the nervous 90s. What goes through your head when you get into that? All you're thinking about is playing the next ball, or the next ball, or are you letting your brain think ahead to what might be?
It's a tricky one. That's the second time I've got out in the 90s. The other one was in just a warm-up game. I think I was on that in that time. I was on 91 overnight, and I ended up getting out in 91, so I didn't even add to my score. And the nervous 90s, they are nervous, and you start thinking about what am I going to do, how am I going to celebrate, and all this. And But I think cricket's one of those sports you can think whatever you like and your brain can wander, but as long as that split second, that 5 seconds before, when the bowler starts at the top of his run up, whatever you think about before doesn't matter. As long as you've got a way of then, right, I might have thought about what my celebrations is going to be just after you face the last ball, but as long as, when he starts his run up, that's out of your mind. You just think you're back to watching the ball and hopefully, but it's easier said than done, especially when you're playing for England and you're edging towards 100 and it's and then when you get out on 90 odd, it's pretty frustrating.
And coming back to the point we talked about earlier, fielders around you getting into you a little bit, and do you sense that the bowlers, that they all, I suspect, particularly when you're relatively inexperienced in that situation, it feels like there's obviously a bit more of an edge, that they suspect there might be a wicket to be had, and therefore they up the ante a little bit as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I think by the time you're there, though, you're seeing the ball pretty well, and you're happy. You've got a score. You've got to 90. Even if you get out now, you look. Obviously, it's pretty gutting, but you've done a good job. So I think it's almost more so your first sort of 20 runs. You feel that a lot more. By the time, I think there's enough going on your own mind in the 90s that I don't think it really makes a difference. The only annoying time is when they've had a deep point out, so a deep square leg out for the whole innings, and as soon as you get to 98, 99, they bring him in, so you can't nick a single. That's the worst bit, because but there's not too much chirp generally, but unless you make a bit of a habit of getting out in the 90s, then I think we could see a bit more of it.
Yeah, that's a bit of a psychological barrier then to overcome, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And the counter to that is obviously the euphoria when you actually hit that shot. And can you remember the shot you hit to get you your first Test century? And how did that feel?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it was. I think that Norkia was bowling with South Africa. Bowls nice and quick, and I just clipped one past mid on, and I thought it was 2 at the time, and luckily it just flew. The GM bats just flew down the hill, and crossed the rope, and it was an amazing feeling. I think as a cricketer, when you first play, you're like, oh, it's a dream come true playing for your country. I think the next dream is to score a century for your country, and to tick off. I mean, hopefully I can score many more, but to know I have one, it's a nice little marker to tick off against South Africa. So. Hopefully it's just a start, but it was an incredibly special feeling at the time.
Yeah, well, very well done, Ollie. It was a fantastic achievement, and we're all very envious of you, but fair play to you, and great achievement. So on the subject of Test teams and what you mentioned there about the field placement, we've had a good question in from Alan and Stanford. Why do Test teams give so many runs away by not having a third man?
That's a good question. I think purely because in Test cricket, you want to take 20 wickets. If you've taken 20 wickets, you've won a Test match. And so you want to have as many catching men in as you can. And don't get me wrong, it's very frustrating, especially with a batter like Kane Williamson from New Zealand. He plays the ball so late, scores so many runs down there. But I think if you can if you're playing on a wicket which is carrying, and you can have 3 slips in a gully, and you'd rather have that gully and with even if it's a 10%, 5% chance of getting a catch, you'd rather have that man in a gully than a third man. And if the ball, you feel a bit hard done by as a bowler, and it feels like a win when a batsman does edge it and it flies through the slips because he's played a bad shot. It's a good ball, and we've had a bit of bad luck. So I think it's purely because you want your catches in, and if you put a third man in as well, then there's going to be a big gap elsewhere in the field. But I get what you mean, and I think on a slower wicket where it's not carrying and the ball just keeps on just going down there, it's very frustrating. But if it's that 5% chance of us getting a wicket, you'd take that.
That side of things we've got no clue about in terms of kind of tactical placements of bowlers and things like that. Is that all part of your sort of daily briefings and sort of the more tactical classroom type stuff that goes on that obviously a lot of cricket fans and supporters don't see? these kind of chest style movements of positionings and things like that, I presume for specific batsmen or specific bowlers or specific conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll sit down with, whether it's England or Surrey, before a series or before a match. We'll sit down together. We'll look at a lot of footage of each batter. We'll look at their dismissals, or we'll watch their bowlers bowl and look at their angles on the crease, and we'll just try and work out a way to get them out, really. And then we'll know their scoring areas, we'll know their alignment on the crease and where they stand and where they want to score and what their strengths and weaknesses are from that footage. And then we'll set up a plan. I mean, it's normally pretty simple as a bowler. It's normally bowl at the top of off or slightly outside, but it's because that's the best place to bowl. But it's something that we spend a lot of time on, and I think it's the more technology that's in the sport, the more tactical it's becoming, and the best plans are being made before each series. With a specific plan to each batter. So, for example, someone like Steve Smith, it's just almost pretty pointless bowling at his stumps, because he's just going to hit you through the wicket for 4 all day. So whether it's hang the ball out there, or try and come round the wicket, or come up with some quirky plan to try and get him out, then we'll try and discuss pretty much every single option possible.
Yeah, he's virtually. He couldn't get him out. I think, was it the series last summer or the summer before?
Yeah, he's a serious player.
He was awesome, absolutely fantastic. Tony from Hightown near Liverpool, he got quite exercised about the length of time it takes overs and slow play, basically, as a form of sort of deliberately slowing the game down. He did use the CHEAT word, but he was saying, why can't you just enforce sort of an over rate per hour and doctor that if, get runs deducted or added on if it wasn't adhered to? I mean, is there that side of sense that people are deliberately slowing the game down, or?
I think you don't often see it from the fielders. And now, for example, I mean, it's funny you say that. The fines have got a lot bigger. So I think now, for every over that we don't get in it, or say we're 3 overs behind, you lose 20% of your match fee for every over that you're behind. And so everyone's got a responsibility on the pitch. So it's like you're 3 overs down and you're losing 60% of your match fee. It's like, feels a bit stiff, that. And I think you see it probably more from batters. Sometimes I think now it feels like in the field you're trying to get around as quickly as you can, and you look up, it's like, how are we still behind here? But I think it's more from a batter's point of view. If you look at the clock and there's 2 balls left in the over and it's lunch, then you're going to see, the batsman, the shoelace is undone. He's got to take his gloves off, do his shoelace up, so they don't have to face a nasty over before lunch where they can't gain anything. They can just get out. So I think that's frustrating, being the fielding side, but all these things are logged by the umpires, and so you say, but I understand it must be frustrating. You just want to crack on and get on with it. And there's obviously been a lot of chat about the light meter as well this summer too, which is another point of debate. But when you're out there, sometimes, I guess, without realising, you think you're rattling around and going around real quickly, but you're having a chat, the bowler's having a chat with the captain about plans and it's probably a bit frustrating for the viewers sometimes, because it's like, just get on with it. We've only seen this amount of overs. We're paid to see a full day's cricket. Yeah, they're taking their time, but the punishments have got a lot stiffer out there, so that's probably a good thing.
Sort of kind of, it's a similar kind of theme, Ollie, but I suppose it's to do with the sort of kind of old mentality of gentlemanly, you walk when you're out and all this sort of stuff that, has been questioned over the years. So Peter from Whitehaven's asked, is it better to be a winner or better to be a sportsman who does the right thing? And I think that's kind of what he's alluding to. I think they're, without mentioning any names, but they're sort of playing them in the Ashes. They had an element of kind of, you're only given out and you walk when you're given out. You don't sort of walk when you know you're out. what's your views on that? I mean, it's quite a controversial area, I'm sure. And,
Yeah, it's a tough one. You see some people say, "Oh, I always walk," and then sometimes as a batter, you genuinely don't know. The tiniest of nicks you get given out, it's like, oh, I'm not even sure 100%. I nicked it. I felt like a little something. 95% of the time, you know if you've hit it. But as a batter, I tell you what, when you I'm not a walker personally, and yeah, if you want to be judged for that, then fine. But I tell you, like the amount of rubbish decisions you get as a batter, you're like, oh, I'm due one here. You might, especially if you're out of DRS decisions or you're playing county cricket where there's no DRS, and you can get some howlers, you can get caught off your arm, you can get caught down the leg side off your pad. You can smash one into the inside of your foot and get given LBW, and it's just like, oh, this is just. It goes in roundabouts. So if I'm being completely honest, I wouldn't walk, because if you walk and when you're out and they don't give you out, then you get 3 bad decisions in a season, and it seems a bit like I'm a big believer in it sort of swings and roundabouts. So you might get a little touch on one, and sometimes and the fielders don't even appeal. It's like you're telling me you're going to walk for that when even the fielders don't think you've nicked it. So I'm a believer in that, but a lot of the time when I nick it and there's a appeal, I'll just walk off. I won't even wait for the decision, because you know it's going to get given out. But for the ones where you've got a little touch on it and then they're not really sure, then yeah, it's quite a hard one as a batter to say you'll walk, because yeah, we do get some stinking decisions as well.
Yeah,
so,
well, it's quite refreshing to hear you say that. I always remember when I played, and it's a few years now, it's before kind of you got booked for simulation. I actually did get booked for simulation, but people used to say that, you go down a little bit easy for penalties. You used to win a lot of penalties, and I used to say to them, well, you wouldn't have seen the first 5 minutes when the centre half puts one on you and sort of almost disables you for the rest of the game. So it's all, as you said, what goes around comes around, and
absolutely
used to get held back and all sorts of things. And so if you got a little nick, you go down, whether you got the penalty or not. 50-50 chance, but sometimes you would, sometimes you wouldn't. But again, I think it comes to that professional. You're there to win the game.
I think it's
a sportsman, but you have to protect yourself as well. And as you say, you get a bad decision, the next minute you're being the most sporting person ever and walking, and suddenly there's a review on it and you're not out. So
exactly. And I think that's purely from a batting point of view. For a fielding point of view, I think it's different in my opinion. I think if I've caught one in the slips there or in the outfield and it's just dropped short, and I think that's different. I'm putting my hands up there and I've said that hasn't carried, because then I've been a batter in that situation where they've tried to claim it and you haven't, and you can see it's bounced before the fielder, and it's like. So I think for me it's different in the field. I'll always be completely honest about that. But they're like I said, with if you got a little feather on one and no one's appealed, then I won't be walking.
No, I think everybody on the call, I think, will appreciate your honesty and on that one. It's another good question. And I think this is a topic that we're all kind of pleased to see develop. I mean, I think Dorina from Brentwood's not quite worded it right, but she said, is cricket a sports girls would enjoy? I think we know that girls enjoy cricket, and the great thing to see is how the women's games come on, and that the girls are playing it in school and so on and so forth. So just get your view on that, really, about how that's evolving. And do you as a England Test team have a lot to do with the England ladies team in terms of coming together, tactics, and just supporting each other?
To be honest, we don't have the chance really to sort of come together as two sides. There's no real social interaction, sort of face to face, or events that we all go to. But 100%, it's a sport for girls as well. I think I've been lucky to see glimpses of it recently. So my cousin, she's only 12, 13 years old, and she's. Because of me, she was like, "Oh, we might give it a crack." And she loves the sport. She's got her first county trial. Same with a family friend who's just given it a crack because she's obviously watched a bit of the TV and knows me as well. So, and those are just two people that have gone, "Oh, I'll give it a go." And now they both love it. And I think it was great when the women won the World Cup a couple of years ago. They sold out Lords. They had a full crowd in there. So. I think hopefully the sport just becomes more for girls, keeps becoming more and more popular, because there's no reason why it shouldn't, and the quality is getting better and better in girls cricket, which is, it's great to see, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, here. Well done. Yeah, totally agree. So going to move on now to kind of your kind of sporting heroes, really, as such, who sort of inspired you. So I particularly like this question, and I think you and I touched on it before, and we knew that there was a little bit of a challenge that, I don't know whether it was the Aussies did it or whether it's reciprocated when the England team go back to Australia, but there's this great story about who could set the record for most beers drunk on the flight across to an Ashes tour. I think David Boone, we discussed, holds the record. But on a slightly different vein, which cricketer, this is from Paul in Amersham, which cricketer, dead or alive, would you like most to sit next to on a flight to Australia?
It's a good question. I guess if it's to Australia, you're probably off the pints. If you're winning on the way back, then that might be a different story. That's a good question. I think in terms of picking their brains and finding out knowledge about life and cricket, I'd go with Kumar Sangakkara. Listening to him speak, his knowledge on cricket and his theories, and even outside cricket, he's an incredible man, an incredible bloke. From a more social point of view, it'd be I'm a big fan of Flintoff. I think he'd be great value. Him back in the day, he looked like he had a good laugh. There's obviously some good stories that have gone out about him, and I think he's changed his habits a little bit now. By the looks of it, I think he might be teetotal now, but to have a few with him, but we're lucky in the I'm lucky in that changing room where when we do win a test and you look around and you're part of a unit and you're having some beers and you set Jimmy Anderson and Broader in the corner, you're chatting with Root and Stokes is there, and you're just like, oh, this is mad, this is awesome, because you feel like you're real part of a unit, and with some of the best players in the world and some of my heroes as well. So it's awesome to be able to sort of share those special memories with them. And yeah, when you're doing it on the way back from somewhere where you've won a series, yeah, you can enjoy a good few beers as well. But though I think Flintoff would be a good fun to sort of listen and sort of have a few beers with him after a good series win.
Yeah, just don't let him drive your car.
Yeah, exactly.
This one's from David in Billericay, and he's asked, who's your greatest of all time?
My greatest of all time, I think we're probably, and I don't want to name names now who are still playing, because I'm going to have to play against them in the next couple of years, hopefully. I think Tendulkar is one of, if not the greatest. His stats are unbelievable. The amount of international hundreds he's got. I think he's got. Did he end on 100? I think he ended on 100, and it's just like, that's a ridiculous amount of runs. Great to watch, and seems quite a humble bloke as well. So I'm going to go with Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah, it's a great choice, a really good choice. And this one's put you on the spot a little bit, but we did give you some homework to do, so I think you've prepped something for everybody. This one's from Danny in Amersham. Who would be your all-time England team? And you can pick a number 12.
Number 12 as well. You see, I've gone with, you could make a team out of this. So I'll start at the top, but I've gone Cook, Alistair Cook. I was lucky enough to make my debut when he was in the side, so that was pretty cool. Cook and Strauss are opening up for me. I've gone with Ian Bell coming in at 3. He's obviously nice to watch. A lot of comparisons are made, which is a massive compliment I see to myself. That's what, whenever I score runs, all I see is he's like a young Bell, which is a nice compliment. Peterson, actually, I'll go Root for his stats are a joke still. White ball and Test cricket. Kevin Peterson at 5, pretty, but I mean, he's you love him or you hate him as a bloke, I think, but what a player. Great to watch on the pitch, and I've played a few games with him as well for Surrey, which has been good fun. got Stokes and Flintoff in next. Quite hard.
Good social team then.
Yeah, good social team. Yeah, exactly. That's half of it, I think, these days. Stokes and Flintoff, a couple of all-rounders, unbelievable players. Stokes, potentially the greatest cricketer, in my opinion, in the world at the minute as a all-round package. I've got Alex Stewart with the gloves. He's my boss at Surrey, so I've got to keep him happy. Graham Swan, Jimmy Anderson, and then I've said Jofra Archer because he just provides that. It's something else, but I've got Stuart Broad down as well. So whoever wants to run the drinks with me can.
That's a great team. That's a great team. Graham Swan was quite a character.
Yeah, I don't know him. Well, I met him a few times, but he looks like a good character, and the boys seem to say good things about him. So, but he's a serious bowler too.
As I said, I think we discussed it before, but I mean, cricket seems to loan itself so well to after dinner speaking. So if all else fails, Ollie, I'm sure you'll be very, very adept at that. We'll have many a story under your belt. Actually, on a subject of kind of yourself and some other young talent, we did get a late question in from Amy in Oxford, who said it's been great to see Surrey producing a number of really successful international cricketers in recent years. She's named yourself, obviously, Tom and Sam Curran, Rory Burns, Don Sibley, and Jason Rui. In light of that collective success on the international stage, what do you think makes the Surry Age Group and Academy programme unique?
I think the way it's run, in my opinion, is as close to a professional environment as it can be. I think the hours we spend there, whether this is why we produce so many players or not, I'm not sure, but we go down there on a Monday night from sort of 6 till 10, be training at 10 in the evening on a Monday. Then we'll go on Thursday night from 6 till 10 again. Then we'll go up to the Oval on a Wednesday afternoon. My school teachers hated me, but so we'd spend a lot of hours there. And I think the way it's run, we train with the sort of strength coaches who work with the first team as well. The physios and the amount of support staff that they're run by a guy called Gareth Townsend, who's run a pretty steady ship for a long time now, and he's a good coach. And sort of Alex Stewart's brother is a great batting coach there as well. So I think the staff that are there is just sort of good at producing good talent, and also I think we're lucky enough that being at Surrey, they do have the financial support, and they do have the finances that we're lucky enough to be able to go away on pre-season tours to Cape Town or to Sri Lanka or somewhere at the start of when I was there, at the start of each season, which was great to get that extra bit of experience playing abroad. But I think that's probably a main reason why. And I think it looks the same in the girls setup as well. The quality of coaching is down there is also, I know a few of the girls coaches, a guy called Richard Bedbrook heads it up now, and he's another great coach. So I think the way it's run, the way it's managed from the top, we hopefully set the example as a first team, but it's as close to a professional environment at that age as in cricket as I think that there is.
What age did you get involved with Surrey from the academy side? Because obviously on the football side, you see kids you see them suddenly making their debut, and they've been at the club since they were 6 or something. Is that similar in cricket, or is it later developed?
So I had my first Surrey trial when I was 7, first got into the side when I was 8 and just played since. But I guess, you then signed my first contract at 18. So, and then was on the academy at 16, 15, I think. So, but yeah, I've been Surrey boy since I was 7 or 8 now, which is a nice thing.
Well, it's a testimony to your perseverance, and I suppose from your parents' side of you, the support they've given us, because they must have done quite a lot of driving to and from during the week. Yeah.
I feel bad. They've done some good driving over the years, so I hopefully repay them with a little meal out here and there, which is.
I think you've more than repaid them when you got that. In South
exactly.
Africa.
They've done some great hours.
Well, I'm conscious on time, Ollie. So I hope you've enjoyed those questions. But we got about 20, 30 questions come in. We've filtered some of them out, but you very kindly, as I said earlier, donated 3 shirts that we'll sort out afterwards. So we're going to announce that the 3 winners of the shirts are, in no particular order, it's Peter in Whitehaven, with his question around whether it's better to be a winner or a sportsman, which we got a really candid reply from you for. We've got Paul from Amersham, next to which cricketer, dead or alive, would you like to sit next to on the flight? And also Amy with a late question around the academy, because she's clearly got a very, very good knowledge of you and Surrey Cricket Club. So I'm sure you'll be happy. So we'll sort those shirts out with for her for those three winners. We'd obviously like to say thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight, for giving us some great entertainment with your answers. I'm particularly keen on seeing that Flintoff and Stokes combination on the night out. That would be very entertaining. I think we'd like to obviously thank everybody that sent in their questions and joined tonight on the call. The biggest thanks, of course, to you, Ollie, but also an important person that sits behind you as well. It helps coordinate us as well and help us as well as Stuart at CSC. So thank you to Stuart. My colleagues at AllClear, in particular Letitia and Bav, who've set up all the structure that sits behind all of this. And yeah, I think it's been a really fascinating insight. And obviously, from our perspective, we hope that there'll be many more shots of Ollie holding his bat up. Hopefully, reverse way round, so we can all see the AllClear logo, Ollie, live on TV. There'll be many more occasions that we can see you doing that, and I'm sure there absolutely will. So, I really just want to say a heartfelt thank you from everybody at AllClear Travel Insurance for the support you've given us, the candid answers you've given us, and we hope that the shoulder gets very, very much better and fully heals very quickly, and we can see you making some great runs and hopefully not diving too far in the field in the near future. But thank you very much.
No, cheers. Thanks very much for having me. Very enjoyable.
Thank you very much. Cheers now. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Catch you later.